Hi guys, it is your friendly neighborhood headbanger Terry here. This is the second time I'm trying to do this video, to record this video, so let's hope that works, shall we? First of all, Happy New Year. I hope you guys got to celebrate with your loved ones in your house, and I know it wasn't the same as, other years, but oh my gosh, goodbye to 2020. Um, so there you go. And that leads into, I think I told you guys on Facebook, that those of you who are friends on Facebook, that I was going to do an Ask Me Anything video for New Year's Day. And so here I am doing that. And the first question that I'm going to read and answer has to do with 2020. And it says, there is always an upside to falling down. And what were your favorite positives that came out of the negatives in 2020? I have three. I know she said my favorite, but I've got three, so I'm going to give you three. The first one was that we, in COVID, got to find out really where our strength was, and we got to be thankful for our friends and our family. I think in the beginning, it was kind of like, well, maybe it's not that bad. We don't really know that much about it. It's like the flu, all those things. And I think as time went on and we saw numbers go up and we saw people get very, very sick and die, that we realized that it wasn't going away. It hasn't gone away for a year now. And that we were going to have to take it a little bit more seriously. There were things that we needed to do to help our fellow man, like wear masks, and we had a lockdown time, a quarantine time. We locked down for, I think it was a couple of months here where I live, and a lot of businesses closed, and that was very rough financially. It was. And so there were a lot of things that we were dealing with, but I know that because my sister and I had a friend whose husband was one of the first people to die in my county, and because we watched her not be able to visit him because they didn't have the one designated visitor yet, and we watched her not be able to have a funeral or have any kind of closure. She just was, given his ashes, and that was it. No one was able to come and console her, that kind of thing. We realized how grateful we were for our loved ones and our friends, and that we wanted everyone to be safe, and we would do what we needed to make sure they were safe. And not very many people knew someone that had COVID at that time, but now almost everybody knows someone who's had it, or currently has it. I know several people who have had it or currently have it. Some of us know people who are in ICU, on a ventilator. Things don't look good. Some of us know people who had barely any symptoms, and some of us know people who were somewhere in between. I had a very dear friend who had it, and her husband had it, and they were both in the hospital at one point. Thankfully, they are both fine now. But, it's just one of those things where I found myself going to bed at night and thanking God for my family and my friends and their health. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that I think racial injustices, which are of course social injustices, were brought to the forefront. And that doesn't mean I'm condoning any sort of rioting behavior from anybody. I don't condone that because I don't think it's conducive to getting what you want. Protesting, absolutely. Protesting, I think, is a great thing. It is protected. We are allowed to gather peacefully, and I think it should be protected. But I think the most important thing is that we realized that we do tend to look at people of color in a different way. And I'll be the first to admit that. I know that if I'm in a rough neighborhood and a person of color comes walking toward me, I will freeze up. I will tense up. I will wonder what's happening. If I'm in a car, I'll check my locks. And I think that if I were in the same neighborhood, well, I know if I were in the same neighborhood and there was a guy walking down the sidewalk and he was white and he was just dressed casually, I probably would not I might be apprehensive, but I would not feel the same amount of fear. I don't think. And I am honest with myself on that, and I need to work on that, because that is just presupposing. And no matter what stats are, and stats may say this and that, you just can't, not, people aren't statistics. So you just can't go ahead and say that's the way that person is going to be. Do you take precautions? And sure, of course. I try to be safe everywhere I go, no matter where I go. But it's, I know that I have that predilection in me to be that way. And so I am trying to be better with that. And all of this sort of brought that to the forefront in my mind. And last but not least, and I may get kind of a backlash on this. That's okay. You're allowed to think what you think, and I think what I think, and you're not going to change my mind on this one, I can tell you that. But I am very happy that Trump was not reelected. I'm very happy that our country gets a chance to go in another direction with a leader who is better spoken, better tempered. You know, is he going to make mistakes? Probably. Are there going to be things done that I wish those decisions hadn't been made? Absolutely. But I just think that a lot of damage has happened to the United States' reputation among our allies and our NATO friends. And I'm just glad that we have the chance to maybe try to get back on track with that. Because we are a world leader. We're one of the largest democracies on the planet, with the exception of India. And we need to get along well with our allies, and we need to be a leading force, a guiding light in international relations. Not to mention, within our own boundaries. We need to look out for each other and care for each other, and hopefully, things are going to change. We'll see. Okay, let's see. The next one is from A. A wants to know what my favorite food is. And everyone that knows me at all knows that my favorite, or has known me for a while, shouldn't say at all, that has known me for a while knows that my favorite food is pancakes, and particularly pancakes made by Bill. Bill makes unbelievably wonderful, fluffy, big pancakes that are like little clouds of pancake goodness. And they are absolutely fantastic. I love them. He makes them for me when he knows I need a little treat, or sometimes just as a surprise, because he's awesome that way. I don't think you guys saw this mug when I did my Christmas mug thing. I think it was in the dishwasher. But this is the reindeer mug. Isn't he awesome? With his little stuff hanging from the antlers. Anyway, as always, I have my cup of coffee with me. But yeah, a close second, also made by Bill, a close second to pancakes is his lasagna. His lasagna is just kick butt. It is unbelievably good. It is derived from my Aunt Elaine's recipe, and he's just kind of tweaked it from there. It has sausage in the meat sauce, as well as ground beef. The cheese that is in between the layers is always ricotta, because ricotta is the best. There are tons of herbs and spices in it. I don't even know. I don't even think he knows. I think he just kind of just does it a little bit differently every time, but it always works out. And it is just incredibly good. Wonderful. So yeah, pancakes followed closely by lasagna. Let's see. My friend Kay says, has the Headbanger set any major goals for the coming year? I really don't do resolutions anymore because I am tired of disappointing myself. And when I disappoint myself, I feel like a failure, and I'm a huge overachiever, and if I don't achieve the thing that I've set out for myself, I feel bad about me. I define myself by my accomplishments. So I finally learned at this stage of my life to stop making resolutions. So instead, and I guess this is kind of a resolution in itself, but it's also a very core part of any 12-step program or any recovery program. And that is, I am going to take one day at a time. Now, it doesn't mean I don't plan for the future. Of course, I have future goals, but I'm going to get to them one day at a time. instead of worrying myself to death about how that goal is going to be reached. Now, am I going to stop worrying? No, it's hardwired. But I am going to try to limit my worrying to what is happening that day. And, sometimes you have to take it day by day or hour by hour. And however I need to do that is how I'm going to do that. I am going to try to slow my thinking down, because sometimes my thinking gets really, really rushed. And I am going to try to ask myself, what are you doing? How are you doing? How are you feeling? What's happening right now? And I am going to try to listen to my ego. If you know anything about Freud decided that there were 3 parts to the brain, and I can kind of see where he's coming from with this. There's the super ego, which is do everything right all the time, the perfection part. There is the id, which is the toddler in you that wants everything all the time, right now. And there is the ego, which tries to balance those two out, give you some of what you want and all of what you need, to quote one of my priests. And so I'm going to try to start listening to my ego when it says don't do that or go do that, and listen less to my id, which tells me you need to do this now, or this is, it'll tell me what I want to hear, which is worry about this now, worry about it, it's horrible, worry about it, or go get that and do that now, you have to do that now, if you don't do that now, then everything's going to be horrible, do that now. So I'm trying to do a little bit of balance, and just do that by just taking one day at a time. And that's so much harder than it sounds. That is way super harder than it sounds, unless you're a complete and total slacker, and then you're just like, cool. But that's not where my mindset is most of the time. So yeah, that's my thing. One day at a time. Slow down, think about things, make the best decision, make the best choice. Don't sweat it if it doesn't work out, just try again. So slowing down one day at a time. That's my goal, we'll say, rather than resolution. Let's see. My friend Kay says, what are your favorite classical pieces? Classical, in the broad sense. I have to go to another piece of paper for that, because that was kind of a long answer, so I printed it on a separate piece of paper so I could look at it. Okay, going to classic in the basic sense, meaning classical music, Beethoven's 5th, 6th, and 9th symphonies. The 5th I like because it's just kind of like classical heavy metal. Not every bit of it, but a lot of it. The 6th I like because, it's in the name, Pastoral Symphony. It's kind of calm. A lot of people, if you've ever seen the movie Fantasia, the part of the movie that's about mythology, that has the little Pegasi, I guess, flying around, and little cherubs and everything. The music that's playing during that is Beethoven's 6th, the Pastoral Symphony. And I like it. It's just kind of calm and chill. Because every now and again, even the headbanger needs a little calm and chill. The 9th Symphony, especially the choral part of it, I'm particularly fond of because it was my wedding march. So most of you might know that as Ode to Joy, the choral part of the 9th Symphony. Da, 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 da. Anyway, that was my wedding march, and so I am kind of, I like that one particularly. Other classic things that I like are the William Tell Overture, and I mean the whole thing, just not the, da, 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 which is what most people know, but all of it is actually quite nice and quite pretty. The Firebird Suite, which is the only thing I like by Stravinsky, because I think most of his music just sounds like he threw paint at a piece of sheet music and then just wanted people to play it. But I do like the Firebird Suite. It has got a beautiful melodic part to it. It's got a very majestic part to it. It's got this great dun 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 dun. It's really, really a very nice piece of music that's got a lot of kind of every sort of style in it. So if you get a chance, listen to that. The Nutcracker Suite. I like it quite a bit. As I told you in the Christmas video, Tchaikovsky hated it, didn't think it was good. It did flop at its debut. And now it's probably the thing he's best known for. And I do like it. Most people just hear little bits of it, but the whole thing is actually quite nice, and I encourage you to listen to the whole thing at some point, and to read the story, because the story is kind of cool too. Moving a little bit further up in time, actually quite a bit farther up in time, looking at the 1940s and 50s, I really like swing and big band. I was raised on that. My dad and mom, that was their music, and so they played it a lot in the house. And so, let's see, Sing, Sing, Sing by Benny Goodman. Love that. One of my favorite Glenn Miller songs is the St. Louis Blues March. It's just fantastic. You need to look that up, YouTube it or whatever. St. Louis Blues March. It is wonderful. In the Mood by Glenn Miller is another good one. My mom basically had Glenn Miller's greatest hits, and there was like 6 albums of Glenn Miller songs, and just I'd say 90% of them were just fantastic. There were a few I didn't like, but you know that's going to be true of whatever artist you listen to. You're not going to like something. Let's see, what is our next one? The next one is from my friend H. And he and I are both musicians, both piano players. He plays some other instruments too, as do I, but his are cool. Mine are like clarinet, bass clarinet, you know. His are like guitar, drums. So he wanted to know what my top 10 favorite albums were. And these are in no particular order, and they cover, you know, some different genres. The first one is Van Halen by Van Halen, oddly enough. The first Van Halen, first album they did, because I first got to know Van Halen when they released 1984, oddly enough, in 1984. And I kind of was like, hey, I really dig this. I dig this sound. This is pretty cool. And so I started, like you do when you find out you like an artist, I went back through, you know, their albums. And they have put out quite a few albums. Let's see, there's Van Halen 1, 2, Fair Warning, Women and Children First, Diver Down. Yeah, like 6 with the original lineup. And then when Sammy Hagar came on, they put out several more. I'm a purist. I like David Lee Roth Van Halen, but, you know, I'm not going to say there aren't any good Sammy Hagar Van Halen songs, because there are. So anyway, Van Halen by Van Halen. Number 2, Ride the Lightning by Metallica. Good song. Or what am I trying to say? A good album. There we go. Again, I kind of went backwards in time with Metallica. You know, heard them from one album, liked them, and then kind of went back in time. And Ride the Lightning was one that I particularly liked. Let's see, 3, Fantasia. Yeah, we were talking about the movie Fantasia. Well, of course, it has a soundtrack, because really the entire movie is just classical pieces with animation put to them. So it wasn't really hard to do a soundtrack for this. But my Aunt Jenny bought me the soundtrack to Fantasia. And I just remember listening to it and loving the music. And it was one of my introductions to classical music, that and Looney Tunes cartoons. Because I don't know if you know it, but Looney cartoons have a great deal of classical music in them. And my dad used to tell me what the names of the songs were, and that was how I learned quite a few classical pieces. Let's see. Where am I? Number 3, Back in Black, AC/DC. One of my favorites. That Back in Black would probably be my theme song if I had to have a theme song for some reason. If I were ever elected president of the United States, I would get rid of Hail to the Chief and I would play Back in Black. Because I just love that song. That song has just got such punch to it, and such I'm here, I'm back, you didn't get me down. It was written as a tribute to Bon Scott after he died. The former lead singer of AC/DC. He did not come back, which is, I guess, kind of a good thing, because that'd be weird. Number 5, Live at Wembley by Queen. In 1986, Queen did a live concert at Wembley Stadium. and it was incredible. For one thing, there was like 50 gazillion people there, and for another, it was Freddie Mercury in his heyday, about 4 or 5 years before he would die from AIDS. And it's wonderful to see him looking good, looking strong. That man could belt out a song. He was one of those people that sounded just as good live as he did on the record, and just the voice, the power, the range, and getting excited with the crowd. You can't watch the crowd not get excited too. So just cool. Very, very cool. Let's see. Metallica, the Black Album. And the Black Album is actually called Metallica. The name of that album is Metallica. Everybody calls it the Black Album because in order to see the little snake that's on it, snake, is that right? I think it is. And the name Metallica, you have to like pick up the Black Album and sort of tilt it and look at it. So it's mostly just called the Black Album. But that was kind of their breakthrough into the mainstream. And because of that, some people don't like that album. I think it's funny where a lot of people don't like a group once they get into the mainstream. And it's like, not that they've really changed or anything, they just don't like them because they're mainstream now. And you're not cool anymore because you listen to something that isn't mainstream. I think the Black Album is a good album. I think there are quite a few good songs on it. Is it their best album? No, I don't think so. Their best album, it's probably a tie for me between Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. And I also really, really liked the new one. And now I can't think of it. Hardwired to Destruct. That's it. That really got back to their thrash roots. I really like that album. Let's see. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Oh, speaking of Glenn Miller, number 7 is the all-time greatest hits by Glenn Miller, and that actually is the one I was talking about, the 6 albums that my mom had. Great music on it. Great. I think if I'd ever learned to swing dance, I would have just put those 6 albums on and just let them play continuously. But fantastic music. Glenn Miller, incredible musician, incredible director, incredible arranger. Sadly got shot down. His plane got shot down right in the prime of his performing during World War II. So sad. That was very sad. But there is still a Glenn Miller orchestra that plays in the style that he arranged music in. So that's good. Let's see. Number 8, Christmas Symphony by Mannheim Steamroller. That's kind of a greatest hits of Mannheim Steamroller's Christmas songs. The first Christmas arrangement that I heard, and Chip Davis is an incredible arranger. Incredible. The first Christmas song I heard, I think, was Deck the Halls. I believe that was the first one they released. And everybody was like, what is this crazy new modern arrangement of Christmas songs? And they went on to release several more albums and several more songs like that, and also songs that sounded like they were being played in the 16th century. Had a very very medieval, not Victorian, Elizabethan, thank you, Elizabethan sound to it, and they played with instruments that would have been played in that time, like recorders and that sort of thing. So really, really cool group. And like I said, again, Chip Davis, incredible arranger. Let's see. Okay, number 9. Number 9, oddly enough, is the 9th. Beethoven Symphony Number 9 in D minor, choral or chorale, however you want to say it. And it is directed by Leonard Bernstein. Bernstein. It's EI, so I think it's Stein. Leonard Bernstein. And he was also an incredibly talented piano player as well. It was really hard for me not to include, speaking of him, not to include Rhapsody in Blue here, but Rhapsody in Blue is a work of music, not an album. A lot of times it's put together with An American in Paris, which is another George Gershwin work. It was really hard to not to leave that out, so maybe that's like number 11. Okay, number 10, live at Yankee Stadium, Billy Joel. Billy Joel's a New York boy, and New York loves him, and he loves New York. I was able to see a motorcycle that Billy Joel had donated to the Hard Rock Cafe when I was in New York the first time. And his favorite place to play is Madison Square Garden, and he plays there often, still playing there now, which is amazing. But this was a Live at Yankee Stadium album that was released, and it had all of his. He played all of the ones that you would want to hear, and a few that were a little bit more obscure, like Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, which really I don't guess is that obscure, but a lot of people don't know that one, who are just casual Billy Joel fans. If you're a Billy Joel fan, then you definitely know that one. So yeah, I really, really enjoy that. Again, live albums are so cool because you get the crowd reaction and that kind of amps you up if the band is good live, and that is the big if there. But Billy Joel's fantastic live. He sounds live the way he sounds on the recordings, and it's just fantastic. Of course, I have not heard him lately, but Live at Yankee Stadium is worth checking out if you are a Billy Joel fan. Okay, wow, that took a long time. Let's see. There is one last question, and it is kind of a biggie. I saved it for last. And this is from a friend who said, it's a two-parter. First part is, have you ever questioned your faith? Yes. If you're a Christian and you say you haven't questioned your faith, then your nose is going to grow 3 feet, because that's a lie. Everyone questions their faith. Everyone questions circumstances in their lives and why they're happening. Everyone says, and especially this year, good grief, why is God doing this? What kind of God would allow this to happen? Is there even a God? If there were a God, then blah, 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 blah. So yeah, it is difficult to look at bad times and say, why did this thing happen? Why wasn't there an intervention? The short answer to that, from my perspective, is the answer to that is a two-parter. One is I don't know. I'm a firm believer in saying I don't know when I don't know. I believe a lot of Christians hem and haw and say stupid platitudes that should be on a plaque somewhere when they just don't know. It's okay to not know. It really is okay to not know. We're not going to know everything until we get to heaven, and I'm okay with that, because some of the things I don't know now that I'll know then would just make my little human brain explode. The other part, the part two of that question, is that God has given all of us free will. And because we have free will, we have the free will to do good, and we have the free will to do stupid and evil and bad. And a lot of us choose stupid and evil and bad. And when we choose that, we affect the lives of others. And there will be a reckoning for that. There will be a chat, I firmly believe, with the Almighty. Even, I believe, there's going to be a judgment day. And even if you are a Christian, if you've given your life to Christ, there's going to be an accounting for the things that you did. Now, that's not going to mean you're going to go, that you're not going to go to heaven. It just means there's going to be a chat. And I believe some things will be brought up in chats, even if, So, nobody needs to feel too pious about themselves. Everybody's got something they can chat about with God. The second part of this question is, what would you say to a doubter to help them understand why you believe? Wow, that's asking a lot of my little brain. Why I believe is because I've seen things that could not have happened without a greater power, without an architect of design, say. I don't think it's by chance that we are the only planet in the solar system that has managed to grow plants, animals, sustaining water, humans, that we are the only planet in the solar system that has built works of art, buildings, technology. I don't think that's by chance. I don't think that we just happen to be in the right place in space for all that to happen. So I don't think it's by chance that our atmosphere supports that when other atmospheres of planets don't. There's too much, to me, that just isn't by chance for me not to believe that something more is going on. Now, How do I get to the fact that that's God? Well, I have C.S. Lewis to thank for that answer, because he points out that in every civilization, whether it's tribal or like the United States, there is a standard of good and bad. There are things that are acceptable. There are things that are not acceptable. Um, you know, there are things that are rules that are meant to be obeyed. There are rules that if you break them, there are consequences. This is universal throughout every civilization that has been discovered as of yet. So, what is the standard for good? Who made up the rules for good? So many civilizations have similar rules for what is good. Did they all get together and have a meeting? Well, of course not. But how do we know that there's a standard for good? And what C.S. Lewis says is that this standard for good that we're all sort of agreeing is, yes, you don't go out and kill people, you don't, Hammurabi's code is very similar to the Ten Commandments, is very similar to, there is a standard of good. And he suggests, and I think correctly, that God is the author of that standard of good. You have to have an absolute good that you're working toward, or that is influencing the rules that you have here and now, and that is God. By the same token, there is an absolute bad, and that is Satan. So I actually find that very convincing. If there is someone who is doubting their faith or questioning why Christians believe the way they do, I would very highly recommend C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. It's a series of lectures he gave over the radio, and those basically make up the chapters of the book. And he is explaining how do we know that God is God, Jesus is Jesus? How do we get this? And C.S. Lewis used to be an atheist, and this is sort of almost an autobiography of how he came to his faith and why he believes what he believes. But like I said, the two reasons I believe what I believe is that there is far too much that I see around me that isn't happening anywhere else, that I have to believe that God is the creator of this earth, these trees, these plants, these people, because no other place is doing this. No other planet is doing this. And so that's kind of where I come from, where that's concerned. Oh gosh, I've gone over 30 minutes. I try not to go over 25. If you're still with me, thank you. But yeah, I don't know if that answered the question of my friend who had questions about faith. And I'll just give a shout out to her here if she wants to get together and talk about that over coffee while wearing masks and socially distancing, then yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I enjoy talking about deep subjects and exchanging ideas. I think that's a fun thing to do. And often an informative thing to do. All right, guys, I really, really hope that you all are well. I love you guys. I hope you're being safe. I hope that this new year brings for you and your loved ones health and happiness and strength and perseverance. Because all those things are going to happen. You're going to be things you need to persevere through. Just because the clock turned to 12:01 on January the 1st of 2021 did not mean everything went away from 2020. We've still got COVID. We've still got issues that we're dealing with. So it is my hope for you that you are able to deal with those things, and that you're blessed this year. And so you guys take care. I will see you in the next video, which is going to be, I can't roll my tongue, so I can't do drum rolls. Going to be random facts about coffee. That's right. You heard me right. Random facts about coffee. Even if you don't drink coffee, it's going to be interesting. So don't say, I'm not going to watch that because I don't like coffee. It's going to be interesting, I promise you. Once again, if you like the content you see here, please feel free to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you'll know the next time I'm going to blather. Love you guys. Bye-bye.